Hi sparkles, welcome back to my channel, and I just want to thank you guys so much for the like and the support on my last video. You guys are helping this channel grow, and I love and appreciate you guys very much. So third video, we'll be talking about a well-known guy, Ted Bundy. There are a lot of documentary, there are a lot of books, a lot of like articles you can read on the website about this guy. So he is a very well-known person on the web. So on this video I am going to try to keep everything under 20 minutes, just because there's a lot of deep documentary, a lot of like specific stuff you can watch. This video is just going to be who he was, what did he do, and the consequence to his actions. So a very quick brief walkthrough on Ted Bundy's life. So Ted Bundy was born on November 24th, 1946 in Burlington, Vermont. His mother was Eleanor Louise. She was 22 years old at that time. She gave birth to her first son, Ted. So at that time, well, still until this day, the father is unknown. There are a lot of circulation and a lot of rumors on who the father could be, but on the birth certificate, the father is marked as unknown. Louise was raised in a very religious family. When she gave birth to her first son, being unmarried, it was like a complete no for her, especially at her very religious family. So it was just like a huge sin and a huge like shameful thing to be doing at that time. So Ted Bundy did live like a secret shameful life. Ted grew up as an adopted child by Louis' parents, so Ted's grandparents, and was told that Louise was Ted's sister instead of her mother. So of course that could be a very confusing, a very traumatic event. Eleanor moved with Ted to Tacoma in Washington a few years later, and Eleanor met this great guy, which became Ted's stepfather. His name was John Bundy, and that's where Ted got his last name. It was said that Ted did not like his stepfather at all. This because the stepfather was a working class family, and Ted did not like the fact that he was born a working class. He did not want to be a working class. He wanted to be like and those like high class. So he really did not like his stepfather. He called his stepfather like uneducated and like all sort of name. He did grow up in a very loving family and a very normal life. His father and his mom was super great and super loving and caring. At a young age, it was said that although Ted was extremely smart, extremely talented kid, he was a bit of a socially awkward kid. He did not get along with a lot of the students. He did not have as much friends as the other kids did have. You know, he was a shy little kid that only kept to himself. Ted Bundy started to show some unusual interest at the age of 3. He started being unusually interested in knife, like all sharp objects. As a teenager, that's when Ted Bundy started to express some dark side of him. He will like go around his neighborhood and peep out like naked female getting dressed. He will peep through the window. He started stealing stuff. He started being very sexually he saw a woman as like a sexual object, and that was only satisfying to him, not like as a person type of thing. He also had an extensive juvenile record for theft, which was dismissed at the age when he turned 18. Bundy graduated in the University of Washington with a degree in psychology in 1972. He was also accepted to a law school in Utah, and although he never ended up with his degree, it wasn't until he started college, that's when he started like working on himself and started being a little bit more outgoing. Bundy fell in love with a wealthy, pretty young woman from California. She had everything that Ted was looking for in a woman. Had money, she had class and influence. So, and Ted loved that. Just because Ted always admired the higher class and since he was born in a lower class, so the woman having a higher class was very pleasing to her. But she did ended up breaking up with Ted due to his like inability to buy her stuff, inability to give, like he wasn't rich, you know, he wasn't a working class, so it's not like he had money to do all the stuff that the very high class, high maintenance woman wanted her to do. So she did ended up with breaking up with Ted, which Ted said destroyed his life and destroyed his like the way he viewed women. Many of Ted Bundy's victims later resembled his first girlfriend, which were female with long dark hair, high class female. By the 1970s, Ted Bundy started working on his social life. He started being very well known. He started being very liked, and he was more of an outgoing person now. He was no longer that shy little Ted that nobody used to like. He even became very active in the social and politic matter. He even got a letter of recommendation from the Republican governor. While there was some debate as to when Ted Bundy started his killing journey or his killing spree, most sources say that he began his murderous rampage at the year of 1974. For his first recorded victim was a 21-year-old news reporter, so she was very in the high class. She was very well known. So from that year, in the period of 6 months, he had 6 different victims. So of course I don't want to get too much into the name of the victims, just because their life was terribly taken away for no reason. So I'm just gonna let their body rest in peace and not even say their name, you know, just let their soul rest in peace. For the purpose of this story, I will say a few of the victim age and when they die. I just have the age down here that I'm gonna read, and this is like a mini timeline of his recorded murder. So his murder began in February 1st, 1974, which is, I say, the first recorded murder we know, which was a 21-year-old woman. She was killed while she was asleep, and of course taking away her skull and jawbone was later found. And March 12, 1974, a 19-year-old woman was also missing, but her body was never found. It does say that Ted described her location where she buried her specifically, but sadly her body was never found. In April 17, 1974, a 19-year-old woman was also disappeared while attending a meeting. Her skull and jaw was also found in the similar location as the first one. May 6, 1974, a 20-year-old woman was found missing. And May 31st, 1974, a 22-year-old woman was also found missing. June 10, 1974, an 18-year-old was taken from an alley behind her residential campus housing. And July 14, 1974, a 23-year-old woman was taken at a state park and literally in broad daylight. July 14, 4 hours later, a 19-year-old woman was also found missing. That was in Washington, which was in his hometown. He later moved to Utah. As soon as he moved to Utah, they saw that women were also starting to disappear at the same rate as his last in Washington. So his technique for capturing and murdering this lady was that he wear a fake sling or a fake cast. And sometimes he walks with crutches. He asks the lady for help carrying his books. And of course, if you see someone in crutches, if you see someone in a cast and they're asking for help, you're gonna be willing, as like a good person, you're gonna want to help them. So of course those girls ended up helping him, and of their good deed did not turn into a good thing. He was also known to impersonate authorities such as firefighters, police officers, to gain his victim trust, and then obviously to lure them into his 1968 10 Volkswagen Beetle, which was like not a lot of people had that car. He would strike them over the head with a crowbar or a pipe, and after hitting the victim, he would enable them by handcuffing them and force them into the car. Ted Bundy did remove the passenger seat of his vehicle and did store the passenger seat in the back, just so he can have his victim laying right there. That's for space purposes, I guess. Bundy was able to rape and murder his victim like that, and he typically strangled them with like a pantyhose and raped their body. Even prolonged this event by returning back to his murder scene and sexually assaulted those women. He took his victim head and like mesmerized what he did and think about what he did. He even like it was like a satisfactory like a satisfactory moment for him. Bundy confesses to 36 killing of young women across several states. There was rumors that it is closer to 100. We're gonna go bring this back a little bit. So in 1969, Ted Bundy was in a 6-year relationship with this gorgeous amazing woman named Elizabeth. Elizabeth was a single mom, and it was said that Ted Bundy was a great father to her single daughter, and they were a perfect little family. Around 1974, it said that Elizabeth was kind of suspecting that something was wrong, and he was seeing a little bit odd behavior in Ted. But that Ted obviously was born in a working class, so Elizabeth was saying that he was bringing home wallets, keys, money, and jewelry and stuff. She was unsure where he was getting this thing from. Ted used his charm to make Elizabeth feel like there was nothing going on, like there's nothing to worry about, babe. You know, all those wallets, all those credit cards, all those house keys, I just found them, I just collect them. Elizabeth did eventually took her suspicion to the police, but they dismissed her just because they did not have any actual evidence or any clue that Ted Bundy was responsible for all those missing women. The couple did continue their relationship and even did it for a few more years after her suspicion and all that was going on. Okay, I would be scared out of my life. Like, my anxiety could never. Like, I would not be able to sleep at night. And the fall of 1974, when Ted Bundy moved to Utah for law school, and surprisingly began to disappear there too. As body count started to rise and more witnesses started to come up and describe what they see, several people contacted authorities and report that Ted was a perfect match to all those missing women. However, police consistently ruled him out based on his charm, his good looking and clean cut in appearance, so obviously he cannot be the killer. He is way too handsome to be involved in all those missing women, so police continuously ruled him out despite all the witness and despite that his girlfriend secretly did contact the police. He was able to prolong getting caught because he was leaving no clues, no evidence that will visually link them into thinking that he was potentially responsible for all that disappearing of those young ladies. I know some of you guys are thinking like, how can he get away with all those stuff? But remember, it was in 1970, it was in the 1970s, and obviously technologies and all those sort of things that we have today did not exist around that time. So just a side note, if you guys are thinking of like, how did he get away with this for so long? Ted was arrested in August 16, 1975, not for all the stuff that he was doing, but he was pulled over by a police car, and the police looked into his car that his car seat was missing. And when he did a little bit more investigating in his car, he even found a murder case. When Ted got caught, he tried to make it seem like there was nothing wrong. So you're gonna tell me that you don't have a murder kit in your car that is filled with pantyhose, ropes, trash bags, and equipment that can be used to strike someone's head? You don't have that in your car? Okay, you're crazy. So he was released but remained under constant surveillance. One of his victims thankfully was able to escape, and she went straight to the police and tell him everything. So several months later, Ted was arrested, given 15 years of. That 15 years was only for the kidnapping, in the failed attempt to kill that lady. It wasn't for all the female that was missing. It was only for that one lady. While he was in jail, they located old 1968 10 Volkswagen Beetle, and obviously, surprisingly, thankfully, they found the car from the young guy that Ted tried to sell it to, and luckily the guy did not do any deep cleaning to the car. So they investigated the car and found some DNA strands and DNA tests, and they even found a strand of hair from his first victim. So that's when they were like, oh, maybe we have gotten our Ted. Maybe that's the Ted that we are looking for. For the trial, Ted Bundy did not hire a lawyer, but instead he wanted to represent himself. He asked for permission to visit the court library just so he can, read some book and to be well prepared for his trial. They allowed that to happen. While he was at the library, he noticed that a window was left open. He was able to climb out of the window of the library, and he was not fined until 8 days later. He escaped from jail not once, but a second time in 1977. So for the second time, he dug a hole in his ceilings until the hole was big enough for him to come through. He was so dedicated and so he had so much time in the world. Obviously, you're sitting in jail, you have all the time in the world. He even lost 30 pounds, and he eventually fit into the hole he made and navigated himself out of the jail. He then was able to find a security or a police uniform, I believe, and just walk out of the building. And to cover his butt, he stacked up books on his bed and then covered the bed, pretending that he was pretending he wasn't doing anything. He was just sleeping. Ted was missing for 15 hours unnoticeably. So no one noticed that he was missing for 15 hours, which is a lot. This is literally a whole day. He used that time to go through one more murderous rampage. Made his way into the university sorority house in the University of Florida. On January 14, 1978, he attacked 4 of the young females that was sleeping at the sorority house. 2 of them was gone, so 2 of them was murdered. And on February 9th, Bundy kidnapped and murdered a 12-year-old girl. Luckily, this crime marked the end of his murderous rampage. Ted was once again pulled over by a police officer, and that's how they found him. They were able to connect the murder in Florida just because that Ted Bundy had a thing that he does, which was he bit the buttocks of one of the girls, and then they were later able to match the bite mark and the buttocks to his actual teeth, which was also given time for those killing as well. Bundy's good look, charming, clean cut made him a sort of a celebrity during his trial. Despite all that Ted has done, a lot of people were fantasizing and fetishizing about his looks. The description of serial killer did not fit with Ted at all. In July 1979, Ted Bundy was convicted for the 2 murders that he had done in the University of Florida. He was also given time for the kidnapping and the murder of the 12-year-old child. On January 24, 1989, Ted Bundy was executed around 7 a.m. at the Florida State Prison in an electric chair. Ted Bundy obviously was a charming, lovable guy. It's weird that people are letting looks and physical appearance come between whether someone is a serial killer or not. I found that kind of strange, but of course, as always, let me know your thoughts and feeling down below. The holiday season is coming up, and I want to start giving away some stuff as soon as I can, just so you guys, holiday season can be as magical. So don't forget to share that video, get your friend to subscribe, get your mom to subscribe, even get your dog to subscribe. And I will see you guys next Thursday and every Thursday after that. Bye.